Hey, we're live.
Hey, welcome to the Thought Bubble. I
The
wanted to
most
see if
cold
you would
open
do
of
it.
cold opens.
I wanted to see if you would do the intro this time because I'm pretty sure the last times I was the one. Hey, you know.
See, my favorite thing, we're immediately going to go into a topic because now that's brought up a thought. My favorite thing
Great.
about doing a
I'm
pre-recorded
not Ashley. I'm
podcast,
Stevie.
my favorite thing about doing a pre-recorded podcast right now is that like I don't have to think about the intro.
Mm-hmm.
Like the intro just like it happens at some point and then I edit it and then it's fine. So
I think
there's not like an intro. We just there's like, oh hey, we have the intro music and then we start talking and that's it. That's great.
I think the majority of the podcasts I've ever done have had the intro between like 5 and 15 minutes into the episode. Like I've done it halfway through sometimes, and I think you've been there for some of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite
Yeah.
podcasts just like don't really have an intro. They just
Yeah,
kind of
I
start.
like okay, my favorite podcast is still Dynamic Banter, and they about a year-ish ago started doing just like ridiculous improvised songs at the beginning that sound really surreal, and then well, it has intro music just before that, and then that weird song starts, and then they get into their bits. But like it's yeah, eventually they just say welcome to the show and then they just continue talking. I don't even think they say their names anymore. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah. Where did where did authentic podcasts go that said their hosts' names at the beginning, like you haven't been watching?
Like they're not 500 episodes deep.
Yeah. I changed my name to Nathan, and now that's canon. I
Okay,
changed my name
Nathan.
to be less gender neutral than than either Stevie or my real name. It already is.
I'm just going to say a different
Anyway.
name for you every time I refer to you.
I want you to like just get a list, like get a list in your little fucking notepad of all the gender neutral names you can think of, and cycle through them at random with like a D20, and that's the one you use referring to me the next day.
I might
So
try to do that. That'll be great.
I think that'd be a fun idea. I think that would be greatly confusing and
I'm
in the
gonna
best
start
possible
it
way.
at a random time in the future, so you're not ready for it.
Okay. Um, but yeah, I do have a topic that I want to open with. And
Hmm.
I so Ashley, you know that we're both pretty interested in stuff like comedy theory and media ethics, most of the time separately, but sometimes they intertwine. Um,
Hmm.
and it's something I just like taking notes on whenever I see entertainment. And keep in mind, if neither of those topics interest you, this topic might bore the fuck out of you. But I'm going to talk about it in case you need something in the background. Um, and I mean that towards the audience, not towards Ashley. Um, there was a video that I found recently because I was going back and a channel was recommended to me that I used to love, but stopped watching after a while. I don't know if I brought this up to you specifically. You Suck at Cooking? Do you know them?
I think you've mentioned them to me before.
Yeah, basically one of those comedy cooking channels. There's a dozen and one of them on YouTube, and a lot of them are fantastic. Um, but he is specifically appealing because of like his just perfectly balanced combination of both like completely and utterly dry delivery and well timed and spaced absolute absurdism, and just whatever funny ideas he's just really good at blending together through the scripts that he writes. At the same time, is just giving genuinely good cooking tutorials. And so I went down a small rabbit hole as to, thankfully, since I stopped watching him, his career hadn't ended and all that. Um, and he's still fun to watch. There was this one video of his that really poked out to me though, and in a very positive way. Um, he posted a video about 9 months ago that's a tutorial on how to make the LGBTQ sandwich. And
Hmm.
I think, and I recommend anybody watch it. It's, well, I think under 5 minutes long. I mean, his videos don't tend to be that long anyway. Um, it's, I think, a masterclass in the combination of making a joke about, the making jokes about the LGBTQ plus community, not having to be at least out as, as a member of the community. As far as I know, he's a straight cis dude, and not being a thoughtless asshole about it. Like, it's a because there's so much of a focus on people going, oh, you can't joke about it because, like, everybody, people keep getting called out for making, jokes that have been heard 1,001 times that are just stereotypes, or just about, how confusing it is, all these letters and genders and pronouns and, different ways that sexuality works. And he did a perfect job with not only just generally giving a great tutorial on how to make this delicious sandwich, which, by the way, the letters LGBTQ, the reason that they're relevant in the title is because they translate to most of the ingredients in the sandwich. He adds a few on top of it just because he likes them in a sandwich, like I think pickled jalapenos or something is one that's not in the acronym. And he had like a kind of fun way to use the Q in LGBTQ, queso. It's got cheese in there. Uh, that's what he used for that one. And yeah, and he didn't even just make jokes about like the elephant in the room topic at hand. He also just threw in jokes that would have already been. Like, I'll spoil just one of them, which is he before he cut up the avocado to make guacamole, he's he said, be sure to play a game of guacamole with it, as he, like, swatted it with a spatula as he jump cutted it to different positions, just as a cute little bit. He does 1,000 of those per video. And yeah, at the end, he did make a joke that, like, I guess you could technically say is slightly at the expense of queer people, but it's more a joke on just people coming out of the closet to people that they know, who very much already can tell that this person's queer, and, like, it's just making fun of the situation at hand, so not really at their expense. And so it's a refreshing take. And he also pokes fun at people who say, oh, this agenda is getting shoved down our throats. And it's something that I just really, really enjoyed seeing, because it's just like, yeah, you can show people this, it's bite-sized, and it's a great example. Great humor
Yeah,
and ethics in
you were
media.
right. I didn't have much to say about that.
Awesome.
I
I'm excited
find
about
I
it.
find no hilarity in the "oh, LGBTQ sandwich" joke. It's
Hmm.
not a bad joke. I just find nothing in it because I've heard it 1,000 times.
Sure. But yeah,
But
that
yeah,
joke is like
I mean, any
3% of
joke
the whole
that isn't
video.
shitting on people, good.
Yeah. It's like, the jokes that he makes in there, like, I would say, like, at most 3% of them have anything to do with being queer. He kind of just, I think, used it as a general theme and, like, introduction of, like, a hook of a bit, but he treated it responsibly, and the rest of them are just jokes about the food. And so, even if you're tired of the original thing, it's like there's plenty more in there for you.
Yeah,
All packed into a nice little bite-sized video, and that's about it.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I
You
don't
think
have
about
much
anything?
else. Yeah. So a lot's happened in my life. Um,
Tell
since the
more.
last episode. So one of the things that's been happening with me, one, I have accepted that I'm polyamorous, which has
Mm-hmm.
been incredibly productive for me in my life, in the very short time that I've accepted it. Um, I figured I'd already been thinking about it again for a while. I tried it at one point when I was younger in college, and needless to say, I was not very emotionally ready for that kind of exploration. But as I've grown up over the years, that was probably like 4 or 5 years ago now, that I tried that. I've grown up a lot. I have become much less of an insecure asshole, than I used to be. So sat down with my girlfriend and we had to talk about it, and I am starting to explore it in my life, and it has only brought positivity so far. It's not only just, oh hey, I have, multiple people I can go to feel this kind of love that I have, and to share that kind of love, but in just knowing and accepting and really getting to feel this way without any shame. It has allowed me to love my girlfriend even more intensely, and that has been incredibly wonderful.
Yeah, like I know that like it hasn't been for all that long that it's been happening, but I will say and every single time that I have spoken to you in any capacity since this started, you have been positively glowing. Like you have a, I mean,
Yes.
firework is not what like you tend to be in the first place, but like you have just I haven't seen you emotionally exasperated by anything in any way since it started, and you seem just so especially fulfilled. I'm so happy for you. I'm curious, is there any like I don't know, for anybody who might want to get into a poly relationship, like like they're thinking about it with their partner and maybe with somebody new. Is there anything that you would have wanted to know going in that you've learned that you didn't know a long time ago?
Like I said, I've not been with it for very long. So, and the great thing about my situation right now is that I have so many people that are very supportive. My girlfriend's extremely supportive. She's very happy that I'm learning about myself and becoming the full me. Um, so while I can't necessarily give advice because I'm still learning myself,
Mhm.
surround yourself with people who love and care for you, and it'll get figured out eventually.
Yeah.
If they don't accept that part of you, then maybe they're not all that supportive in the first place. But that can go for anything.
I'm so glad that I'm the only person in your life that got blindly spitting mad furious with you over this heresy and this complete tainting of the romantic experience. No, no. But
Yeah, it is actually surprising to me that zero people have had any sort of judgment. I truly thought that so many more people I know would wouldn't say any judgment, but definitely wouldn't also be supportive. But everyone has been amazing. Um,
I
don't be
yeah,
scared to be yourself.
exactly. I think that well, I I don't know if I said this like when we first had the conversation about you doing this. I think my reaction was like similar to a lot of people who just don't talk to a lot of queer people having their like best friend come out of the closet to them as gay and they just are like, "Oh, like I support you. I just don't know what to say about this." And I don't really think anything about this and I'm confused, but I'm open to hearing. And yeah, you do that thing, partner. Yeah.
Yeah,
like I yeah,
yeah. Most
I feel
people
like
I've talked to
you know,
have either explored it themselves or are currently in a poly relationship, and so I called you and you're just like, huh? What?
it's also just because like there's people in my life who I would be not that surprised if I found that about with. Of course, not in a negative way. But you are like one of the last people that I ever kind of expected would do that sort of thing. Like relationships seemed to be the closest thing to traditional in your life or among there. And so yeah, it was just like, oh, I gotta entirely recalibrate this way that I see this person, but also not in a way that changes the way I see you, of course. Yeah. Just that
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
happier. By golly.
my past relationships are very much traditional in the sense that they all fucking suck.
I thought you had a
It
few
was
good ones.
horrible. A few okay ones where we kind of were mature about, hey, it's not working. And it just one I love my girlfriend very much. I feel very secure with her, and that's one of the only reasons that I felt comfortable talking to her about it. But especially since this entire talk, it's just solidified so much more. Um, there's a lot less worry in both of us because it's like, oh well, everything's on the table, and we know that we're not fucking leaving.
So
And so
I forget. Do both of your partners in any way like do they do, like how well do they know each other again?
they've talked. Obviously, they've met each other, but
Mm.
it's not like they're not like friends. There's a lot of like passing hellos. There's a lot of like I talk about both of them to each other. So
I it I don't know why this is the first thing that came to mind, but like I okay, for some reason the whole scenario sprung into my head of like when you go to like when two people who don't know each other that well, who've like met maybe once or twice, go to a funeral of somebody that they mutually know, and they're just like, "Oh, okay, what stuff did you know about them? What stuff did you share with them?" And then you're like seeing where you might have intersected and didn't know or something, and
yeah,
yeah. I hope you don't
yeah.
die
What?
soon.
Me either.
That'd be wonderful.
Wow,
Now I'm gonna
Stevie.
jinx it, and I'm gonna
Wow.
be the one who dies soon.
That was a weird tangent to the oh I finally figured out how my love works story.
Well, love, death, robots, it's all the same in the end. No, but
Yeah, for
you
people
know,
that don't know much about polyamory and or maybe confused by it, one thing I was definitely confused by is like not everyone in the polycule dates each other. Like
yeah, that was
it's
my
it's
misconception.
just a bunch of people attached to each other, and whether that's 1 degree of separation, 0, 3, whatever.
I know you know other people in poly relationships. What's the like? I want to word this in a way that doesn't
Were you
sound
gonna
great.
say what's
What's
the
the
high score?
not no no not high school? I would okay. So in comparison to that, this actually sounds much better. What's the highest number of like, the people with each other that you know?
Want to say 4
That sounds
of like
appropriate.
they're not all dating each other, like I just said, but like
Hmm.
of this like one unit that are all tangentially related to each other. It's like 4, 5. It
With
depends because okay, so
yeah.
my new partner's polycule, they're already in one, and so like that one, including them, is 3 people total, and they want to pull in a new one, and now I'm part of it, so there's like 5-ish people.
There's especially because not all of them are like dating each other, as you've noted. I There is clearly a spreading polyweb of some kind that we have no real scope of the true mass of, and I know there's no way you could really feasibly retrieve this, but I'd be super interested to know what that looks like on like a chart of like,
Yeah,
You
the
want like
very
the
edges
just
the
a
of it.
seven
spiraling
degrees of
web of
Kevin
people.
Bacon, but with the polycules?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Loon, do you have any experience with poly relationships?
Not personally, no.
Oh, okay, same here. I've thought about it before, but
I don't
Jesus
know why it
Christ.
was so funny to me that it's like, no, not personally. And then, oh no.
That was the closest thing to a telenovela thing that I think could have
Well,
ever
there
happened
was
on the
that
top
one
level.
time though, but
Oh,
I don't really
Yeah,
consider that really.
okay.
that's fair.
I mean, if you
Yeah.
want to talk about it anyway, the floor is yours. Or if you don't.
Oh no.
I was just about to ask Shane too, because he's the one who walked in. But
I'm
he
more of
doesn't
a
know the
relationship
Wikipedia.
anarchist now. So,
What does that mean?
that you don't really like the divisions between like friend, romantic partner, things like that. You don't really have that. You just have like people in your life that you want to spend time with, and whether that's like hanging out or whether that's doing more intimate things, it doesn't really matter because like you do intimate things with your friends sometimes. So like why draw a distinction between them?
Yeah.
Sounds like a general like 60s or 70s like free love sentiment. And I can get behind that. I mean, personally, I enjoy labels where applicable, but such as how we've discussed personal labels in the past, I mean, that only serves you if it serves you. And so, lots of respect to that. Yeah, it's God, really I love all the theory behind this. But yeah, I want to see, like, I want a hmm, I don't know if this would actually be a good idea, but like my first instinct is like I would love a like ancestry style website. I guess it would also kind of just be no, like I'd love a more specific ancestry style website where, you know, because that has the chart, if you don't know, like the visual way of like flow charting out family trees. But I'd love that instead for, you know, different people's poly relationships. I wouldn't even need to know about what's on the inside of, I mean, like if they want to document like, hey, how every person knows each other, what they have in common, that'd be kind of interesting to, you know, rabbit hole into. But like I don't know, it'd just be kind of cool to look throughout charts of like, oh, these people are together, this person has, wow, that many, and like this person is, oh, only a couple, keeping it simple, you know. And yeah, no judgment, just like I'm so curious. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I only see myself personally. I've thought about polyamory. I only see myself like long term being a monogamous person. Um, but yeah, because like I don't
Yeah.
know. There's something very special to me about like there's something very special and like on one person where I belong to that person. Where it's like, you know, there's I don't know, there's a certain wholesome kind of rush to like, oh, if there happened to be somebody else that like, you know, the asked me out or something, I could go, actually, there's someone I belong to who loves and cares about me, who I'm gonna be spending my life with, and I appreciate the offer. We could still be buddies, but I'm over here, and that's really sweet to me. But yeah,
Yeah.
Polly's cool. Yeah, and
Very
I mean,
cool.
do you have anything else you want to talk about, or?
I
Can
have
I
a
make
friend of
a
mine.
rude but maybe funny joke?
There's a
Sure.
friend of mine that's coming
Oh,
that she wants to talk about it.
oh,
Oh
there's
hell
a
yeah.
friend of.
But I don't know. I don't know if she's gonna get here in time before y'all have to go. Y'all have like 4 minutes left,
We
or is it this longer?
no, we got like 30 minutes.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
All right, she'll make it then.
yeah. So Divine's
Yeah.
buddies happening. You point them out. We'll so starts, and then and they can go at her pace. But yeah, what did you want to talk about?
Yeah,
Oh, wonderful.
Steve,
Okay,
to be a monogamist, you have to have a partner first.
that's Ashley.
Look, I warned you it was gonna be rude.
I
We've known each
I
other long enough to make jokes
okay.
like that, though.
The reason I didn't expect it that time is because I like is because like I'm like, oh, okay, I expect Ashley to think of another thing that I'm not expecting. Oh, you pulled a reverse psychology. I
Yeah.
I expected it to be unexpected and not the usual one, and so it looped back around it. Yeah, well done, nicely done. But yeah,
See, I let it sleep for a while so I could pull it out at the right moment.
my life is a minefield of your virgin jokes.
Yes.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. Other
I
than
don't
that,
think
I yeah.
I have too much more to say about my poly situation. We could, of course, whenever that person comes in and wants to talk about it, we'll jump back to it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so far it's just been great. I keep relating the experience and the feeling of it, of me figuring it out and accepting it. And I don't even want to say figuring out, me finally accepting it after years. Is like a bird being let out of its cage, of just like I can finally stretch my wings and experience love in the way that my brain finds it most easy, most compelling.
Yeah. I mean, it's I mean, I think it's just as important as somebody seeking their own.
There she is.
Is she the friend?
I
Because that seems like a
I
big
I
entrance for
like
a,
that
yeah.
it's impending doom.
Just like
Yeah,
I don't know if you could have
yeah.
had a bigger entrance than that. All right, if you could stop bouncing, we could megaphone you if you wanted to talk about your poly situation.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Oh, sorry. So okay, hold on. So Divine volunteered you, but do you voluntarily volunteer?
I mean, I'm here, so I don't know. Like, um,
It's up to
I
you. It
told her
really
she
is.
didn't
This
have
is being
to.
streamed, by the way.
I'm not even sure about polyamory anymore after the last relationship that I had.
Oh
So I don't know.
no.
I'll
Oh
bring it
no.
in. I'll talk about a little bit of. I won't get too far
As much or
into it.
little as you like. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I feel bad now.
No,
That's okay, Divine.
no. This was my choice.
If you wanted to
Uh,
stop talking right now, that'd be totally fine. But if you want to tell a story, go right ahead.
well, shoot. Um, Oh no, I got into polyamory a long time ago when after I was in a really toxic monogamous relationship with somebody that just
Mm.
had that kind of, toxic jealousy where he was like really mean and all that. But I won't get into that too much. So I like decided to be single for a while, and I kind of thought, well, I'm not gonna be doing that anymore. I'm just going to be poly because I thought maybe that would eliminate that kind of jealousy. But then later, I get into this relationship, and I don't know. It turned out near the end of it, that person decided to be with somebody that was like, just kind of broke a lot of boundaries and stuff. Pretty much, if you, I don't know, you have to be like really mature about it, I guess, and like, it
Hmm.
takes a lot of communication. Um, you have to like,
Absolutely.
Like
yeah,
any
yeah, you have
relationship.
to like yeah, so I mean with polyamory, you have to be open with everybody, anybody else that you might be dating. You have to just keep communication open pretty much. And jealousy is a natural thing. I'm not saying all jealousy is toxic. It's definitely
But
natural.
you are
But
saying.
how you deal with it, like um is important, I guess. But I don't
Hmm.
know. The last situation I had was uh, a little much. So I don't know. I mean, it's a little too much for me right now.
Sure.
Understandable.
It could be a lot of
Yeah,
work. You're still
Yeah.
like even if
I
even
like
if not all of yeah.
my
I was
ex
scrolling
right now.
on
She's
hmm?
oh, sorry.
No, no, you're good.
Well, she's just going through some serious poly problems right now. Like she
Mm.
lives with somebody, like her girlfriend, and her girlfriend brought her other girlfriend, and like her other girlfriend doesn't get along with her, and I won't get into
Ugh.
it too. And just like, and oh, and it just reminds me of like the things I don't want, when it comes to polyamory.
Hmm.
But
Keeping up with the
um,
polyamorons.
I've seen people, that have been really happy, in polyamorous relationships. I've seen people be happy with just a couple of partners, or a good handful of partners, I guess. Um, I don't know, like, but yeah, it's possible. I mean, like people can be happy like that, but, it really depends on how people go about things, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
The
No,
reason
no, no.
why
Yeah.
That was
It,
perfect.
the reason why I wanted her to talk is because she's actually um, made me look at myself, and I've actually
Mhm.
thought about being polyamorous myself at one point
Yeah.
or another, and we've talked about it, and I don't know if I could do it because I get really jealous, and she said, even though she says that jealousy is there too, but I don't know if I could actually do it. But yeah, I've thought about it myself as well, and she's kind of like my friend
Well,
into the polyamorous area.
well, I
yeah,
mean,
I
I don't
was
know. I've done it. I don't know if that's something for me right now,
Yeah, yeah.
but I've done it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it takes good communication. And oops. They disappeared. um,
Oh.
I don't know. I mean, the people I got involved in,
Mhm.
that I got involved with, I think,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know
with
what to
any kind of
say.
relationship, there are always bad relationships as well, no matter if they're
Yeah,
poly or monogamous. Well, I was
yeah,
scrolling through
exactly.
Instagram recently and I came across a video that was just like jealousy and polyamory aren't mutually exclusive. They can absolutely exist together. And it's like you might not be just a monogamous, jealous type person. You might be a polyamorous person who deals with jealousy, and it's just something to
Yeah,
work through if polyamory is something you want to do and explore. And you just also are going to have to work on other parts of yourself, as with any relationship.
Yeah.
I think,
yeah. I mean, it's more
yeah,
people is the thing. That means it's more heartbreak too. It's more. It could be more drama. I mean, you know, and
I
but
think,
then there's the
yeah.
upside. Like,
Megaphone yourself, Steve.
Oh
sometimes
shit.
you don't really necessarily get everything that you need from one partner. And so and putting all of that on one person can be a lot of pressure, I think.
Hmm.
So that's why some people are poly, I guess, because they don't want to put all that pressure on one person. They get their needs met from some other person that they don't get from that. And like, I don't know, I mean, I guess you could, because like each person is different, and with polyamory, like it's best to not like see it as like you love one person more than the other kind of thing. It's
Right.
more like
Hmm.
each person is
You
unique
love
and different.
differently.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
each person is different and unique, and you love them both very much, or all of them, or whatever the heck. But
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
so
like
my
it's
my
yeah.
partners, Mason and Lewis, I get and give love in very different ways from both of them. And I
yeah.
think that is what really, like, one, I just have a lot of love to give, and I love loving people. Um, and that was one major draw and one of the things that made me look back into it. And then, like, being with Lewis, who is my newer partner, is like, oh, there's not only I can give, it's that the feelings are very different for person to person, and
Yeah.
it's there's no competition at all between anybody. It's just, oh, there's just more of it.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
almost feels
no
like
competition.
many it almost feels like many relationships within like a sort of bigger relation. Well, I guess like if it's only the people that are connecting the relationships together, it's like if not everybody in this loves each other the same way, it's really just like a collection of many relationships that just happen to share one person in common with them, but they're still
Yeah.
separate relationships that work separately because it's based on the dynamic between the two people. And what pokes out to me about that, because you said maybe you're not getting your needs met with one of them, is God, how many stories I've heard of relationships that collapsed between like two perfectly good people that could even be perfectly good lovers,
Yeah.
that are great in each other's lives, but their one problem was was like uh the two libidos had a way too much of a gap between them. One of them didn't have as much of a sex drive. One of them had way too much of a sex drive for the other person. They're like, I'm in the mood way more than you are. You're like, I'm just not in the mood as much as you are. And obviously you don't want them to, you don't want to pressure them into intimacy more than they want it, more than they're comfortable with. And,
Mhm.
you could just, with respect and with consent and with all the understanding and communication, have that agreement and make sure you know where all your boundaries are, just like with any relationship. And
Absolutely.
another thing I wanted to note from earlier is, I mean, just like with I think this works generally the same way with a monogamous relationship, but I think it's kind of amplified with polyamory, is the idea that you want to be careful about stepping into one in the specific respect of you want to make sure you're the kind of person who's prepared to leave if you need to without feeling pressured by the amount of people, thus the amount of different emotions and passionate perspectives that would be involved in your connection with them, whether you're splitting out, whether you would eventually, if you need to, split off with one of them or all of them or something in between if it happens to be more than two different people that you're with. And yeah, just communication and everybody being mature about it, especially if they're the kind of people who can stay friends after they're still technically exes. It's is absolutely imperative. And frankly, if they don't react well to, you making decisions and taking action based on your discomfort, taking mature action, then probably wasn't that great of a structure of a relationship in the first place. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for any relationship to be
Mhm.
successful, everybody needs to be fucking adults about it.
Yeah.
And it's like if
Yep.
if they are going to try to pressure you in any way, like to do something that you're not necessarily comfortable doing, then there's something wrong already.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to force things like that on people. Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're all, it's more people. So there's more, of all that.
More
Um,
people, more problems, but at the same
Mm.
time,
uh,
more people, more of everything that's great about people.
yeah,
Risk versus
that's
reward.
true. It's a lot of
It's the
feelings.
same as
That
any
that
important
is,
decision.
it's one of the strangely, it's one of the more difficult conversations to just have with people. Of just like, no, people are really good. Like, I love people. Do I necessarily love everybody? No, there's certainly dicks in the world. However, people on the whole are really great. And so, like, more people, there's more greatness, but people are also flawed. So more people, more flaws. But it's oh, but it's like how you handle all of that and like where you can draw lines of boundaries. That's super important as well.
Also, another thing that pokes out to me is about like if someone is turning a monogamous relationship into a poly relationship. Sorry, am I still connected? Because I don't see anybody moving. I just want to make
Yes.
sure. Okay. Um, you know how they say don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're like, just really again, I'm gonna make sure that I'm like knowingly in the bounds of what we can say on here, but like as make sure that you're like not in a super currently like passionate mood and by passionate I mean just like make sure that you can be focused and keep your head on the long term and in the game like keep your head in the game uh in terms of
I,
making
I
big
think
decisions
we
if
could
you want to
just say
do that.
don't make rash decisions.
Don't make rash decisions because like there's a lot of people that would I think I could see a lot of people trying to start a poly relationship without thinking it through very far because they're feeling certain things. So, like we said, be an adult.
Yeah. And
That's basically
honestly,
it.
I would say that is for any kind of relationship, even friendships, is just like, hey, you got to know yourself before you can do almost any of this relationship, deep relationship type shit. Like, know yourself, love yourself first and foremost over anything.
Yeah, and oh, speaking of which, with a relevant part of this for friendships even is I I a few years ago started a habit that thankfully I've gotten out of but like a habit of excuse me, talking to absolutely anyone that I could find in the way of um I am looking to start a long-term like dedicated concentrated friendship with anybody who would who would take it and like anybody who would take it in, which is great in theory, but like so
No,
if
that sounds horrible.
no
Yeah,
that
that doesn't
that
sound
doesn't
good.
even sound. That sounds like a horrible plan of action.
I no, I think like starting with like for instance, if a person feels lonely and they're looking out for somebody who they might spend a daily friendship with, and like not trying to force it is what I'm saying. But like, if both of you have a certain level of platonic chemistry, um if you're like I don't know, basically respecting the time and energy that you could put into only so many people and understanding that there's different levels of friendship is something that I've had to learn along the way in terms of the dynamics of different platonic ones. Um, but yeah, like I think I'm just wording it badly, but I think yeah, sometimes it's even hard to get the grasp of like what exactly your platonic relationships should look like in the first place, and the fact that you have to make maybe an active decision as to who you're going to choose to spend more time with versus who you're still on good terms with, will still do probably a lot of stuff with, but respectfully spend less time with, because it just happens that way. Because sometimes it doesn't just naturally divide between the two, and you make choices as to I make it sound like rankings, but it's not. I don't really think of it that way. It's like, I don't know, just proportion your time. Your time is a pie. You have 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week, and you need to slice it accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah, the first way you worded what you were talking about with your habit sounded horrible. It sounded
Yeah.
it sounded like desperation, which is not what you want going into any kind of relationship, whether it be
At one point, it
platonic
definitely
or
was.
romantic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I wasn't
I'll
gonna bring
admit
it
that.
up. I know you.
Yeah.
But,
I'm comfortable saying it. Like it's like
yeah,
at one point I was because I feel frankly I feel like I haven't known how to um I think in my 20s I started knowing how like a true deep long-term and like healthily standing friendship actually works. Because frankly I think I've seen people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, etc. who don't necessarily quite understand it, and so you could learn it at any age, but it's like even as much as it is like your relationship with yourself develops over time. I don't know. I think people tend to act like the idea of a friendship inherently comes second nature, but sometimes you have to learn your own boundaries, especially if you're a people pleaser like I have a history of, and you sacrifice too much of yourself because, you know, a lot of people will just let you do that, and it leads you to either get taken advantage of or people just unintentionally, um, I mean, they don't know because you don't tell them, that maybe you don't balance your time or energy well. And I like that I have learned
yeah.
better of it. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I had to learn definitely just in life is that like you have to be your own first advocate. If you're uncomfortable, if you're unhappy, you have to make that change
Hmm.
Yeah.
and you have to speak out or else like who else is going to do it? And so
Yeah.
I think just learning that helps immensely with everything else in your life, whether that be friendships, relationship, professional, or otherwise. It's just like, oh, if you're your first advocate, then you're at least communicating in some kind of way. And hopefully you're going to learn how to communicate better for doing it more. Maybe reading books about how to better communicate if you don't think you're particularly good at it. Um, yeah, just the more I grow up, the more I realize like no, you have all of the power to decide if you're going to be happy in life. If you're not happy with your life, like you've got to make that change. That's up to you.
Yeah. And just in general, and it's like it's you'll be faced with situations.
Started to
I,
get stream. Oh, there's Everett.
Banter cut us out. They're trying to shut us down for being wholesome and
They're
friendly.
trying to
No,
censor us.
trying to shut us down for being too woke. Put it in the paper. No, uh, God, I love
Nope.
the. I love
How
that
dare
like the
you be
latest. Oh yeah.
happy and spread joy?
Yeah, I on a quick tangent, I do love that like the latest way that the latest way that I've seen that people tend to mock hyper conservatives is just being friendly is woke now. Just being a
Yeah,
decent human being to it's not even just like queer and feminism and activism like that, but just like, hey, don't be an actual asshole. And it's like, now
When
you're
men were
woke.
real men.
Yeah, Mr. Rogers is too woke. Actually, no, I do think they said that during his run because it's like he's
Absolutely, they
not.
said that he pushed a
Yeah,
lot of boundaries.
yeah, and it's like the two that well, the one that poked out to me when I like first realized that and said it was because there's others than this. I mean, for instance, there was that episode, there was the famous episode where he washed his feet, I think, in the pool. This looked less weird in the episode than it's gonna sound, but he like washed his feet in a little like kiddie pool in his backyard with his like black police officer friend, and it was at a time when like of course, black people and white people weren't like allowed to like they would even share the same pool. It was during segregation, or it wasn't at least conventional. I don't know if it was after policies. I don't know exactly the timing. The one that I directly thought about the time though was when ref- homosexual. Okay. Or refused. I'm just going to continue talking. Or refused to condemn homosexual rights. And
Well,
then there was
the
obviously a lot
thing
of
is he shared screen space with someone who had AIDS.
oh right, thank you,
That's what
yeah,
it was.
and of
And
course there
yeah,
were a lot of protests related.
he got in a pool with a black person on television when this time the whole reason there aren't that many public pools anymore is exactly because of racism, because they were like, oh no, you can't segregate anymore, and they're just like, fine, if we can't segregate, we're just gonna fill all of the pools with cement, and that's why there's no more public pools in America.
Shit,
True
I
story.
Yeah.
didn't even know that. I Are you behind the poster now, Loon?
I am.
Uh,
I couldn't be bothered coming down.
that's fine. But yeah, I mean, honestly, that post you can walk through the poster if you want. You could just sit with us if you like.
Didn't
But
happen.
yeah, yeah, but yeah. So with the part that I was specifically thinking of was that of course a lot of like protesters of different homophobic organizations they uh like there was like journalists wondering, hey, I mean, he's not gay, why are you protesting him? It's like he's not gay but he's supporting the gays, and like even back then that was enough for people to shit on you. Because like that's a because conservative it's like conservatives go in waves. Like hyper conservatives, they get a little quieter for 10 to 20 years, a little, and then like they ramp up these days because of social media, those days just because it was harder to be called out for it. um and yeah, because not everybody had a fucking computer in their pocket. um what was I getting at? Oh, I swear
I
to God, I
don't
was
know.
getting somewhere. I had oh, okay. Well, yep, nope, I lost it. But I like that we talked
All
about
right.
Mr. Rogers for a second. Yeah.
So to close out the show, anyone that doesn't know, I want to talk about my comic book podcast really quickly. Kind of half promotional, kind of just I'm fucking hype about what's happening with it right now. So I started a comic book podcast with my friend Jesse called the Comic Book Tour Guide, where Jesse guides me through a bunch of different comic book like lores or specific stories, to where I, who don't doesn't normally read comics, can still learn about them and get some enjoyment out of it. But our second episode, we got to interview David Pepose, who wrote the new Punisher series and has done work like Savage Avengers, did work on the Hulk annual, and is currently, I think, next month their book about Space Ghost is coming out, and I'm super excited for that. But because of that interview, I think that got us a little bit more notoriety as well. So like we have a
It's
few other
also that it was a
people who are
great
trying to
interview.
get.
Yeah.
It was an amazing interview. Go listen to it, please. It's wonderful. Um, but another person came up and was like, "Hey, I have this indie comic publishing um, company in Ireland, and I'm putting out my new comic book, When the Blood Has Dried. And here's some copies of it. I would love to come on and talk about it if you'll have me. And I think we're recording that on Sunday afternoon, Eastern Coast of America time. One, if you want to ask any questions to this person, go to my Twitter, go to my website, missus ashley.gay, and put in your questions there. We'll happily ask them on the interview.
What about the Discord? Can we
But
put in
this
questions in the
person,
Discord?
Is the
yeah,
link
putting
to the
questions in
Discord
the,
at mrsashley.gay?
yeah, go, the
Okay.
Discord's on my website. Everything's on my website. If you find a way to interact on the internet on the website, I'll take the questions from there.
Mhm.
But his book, When the Blood Has Dried, I've read all of the issues that I was given, and while I'm not spoiling anything, I think issue 1 is out right now. Go buy it. It's wonderful. It is about a former adventurer who was betrayed by the Adventurers Guild, now having their own separate life where the Adventurers Guild has now come back into the equation and they're having to fight for this life that they've built for themselves. It's fucking wonderful. The art is phenomenal. Let me find out who was the artist. Daniel Romero. Absolutely fucking awesome art. And the writer is Gary Maloney. Absolutely great. Go read it, please.
Also, about that podcast episode that you did with David Propose, um, there's there's a couple of book recommendations I want to make. One of them I'm not going to say because if you listen to I want to say basically there's a book recommendation in that episode, and I want you to listen for it because it is incredible for people who want to do creative stuff and cannot bring themselves to sit down and commit to it for whatever insecure or stressed out reasons that you have. It is a magical book. But the book that I will mention by name, that's related to that, that's related to um, making friends in general, because that was what we were talking about before. I think it was one of the things I forgot to mention. A book that I found in the Morning Brew newsletter, I think, called Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg. It just has like a lot of tips for if like you're for one if you want to get to know someone better, two if you're kind of dead in a conversation and you want to try and find a way out of that. But yeah, please read the works of David Propose and listen to the comic book tour guide. It is so fucking awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, probably if the interview happens Sunday, it'll probably go up Monday. If not, then Tuesday. More than likely, we try to get the interviews out very quickly. I think literally we interviewed David Propose, immediately edited it, and put it up within like 12 hours. So
God.
keep an
And
eye
it
out
was
for
just a
it.
perfect rhythm. Yeah.
It was what
Also,
I learned so much
yeah.
as somebody who is a novice into comic books and the industry as a whole. So much education happened in that interview.
God, and it was
Also, just
especially
listen to the show if you want to get into comics. If you don't
yeah.
know how to get into comics, I don't know how to get into comics, but just having them kind of like yelled at you is a really good way to start.
There's several places you can find that, but none as good as the comic book tour guide. And Mrs. Ashley, not quite actually abstract. I'm going to keep accidentally thinking of that first. And then, and who's the guy that you host it with?
Ashley has joined the space.
Okay, give her a second. She just look it up. Comic book tour guide. It's not hard to find. Luna, do you want to plug anything?
Oh, Sci Guys. You should totally go
Am I
and
here?
watch Sci Guys.
Yo, you're here. It's good to see you.
Yay.
Um, are you part of Sci Guys, or is this something you like that you're recommending?
No, it's just something I like that I'm recommending. I also give them
Cool,
money
cool.
to do more episodes.
Yeah, give those people money to do more episodes because and make Lunar's day. And I'm gonna listen to that. It reminds me of Sci Show, but I have a feeling it's not by the same people
Oh no, it's
by any
much better
guess.
than SciShow.
Wow. Okay, glowing endorsement here. Speaking of which, I'm very excited for Turtles All the Way Down. Speaking of the Green Brothers, that's coming out in less than a month. want to say like just a little less than a month. And God, I'm so excited! It comes around the same time as Doctor Who season 1, which I'll talk about when that happens. We're getting off tangent. Ashley, do you want to finish things off?
Go to my website, mrsashley.gay, MISSUS ashley.gay. Has links to all my social media. I'm streaming a lot more. Go follow my Twitch if you want to see me build houses and House Flipper. Um, was I not megaphoned?
You were not megaphone. I was like, wait, that
Oh,
sounded too directional. Yeah.
go to mrsashley.gay, MISSUS ashley.gay. All of my shit's on there, streaming more. Follow me on Twitch. Other than that, where can people find you?
So I do improv shows, and you can find the links to. I think you could find a directory to any of the links at improvvr.co.uk. That's improv, then an r.co.uk. I do shows with the Improvatars and the Improvatars in VR chat, Improv Night with Stevie and Show in Banter this week, in VR chat other weeks. And I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. The thing that I forgot to mention in other things was that we do this, and which you can also sometimes find in there. Yeah, yeah. Most of the rest of what I do is just either a private thing that you can find at Mystery Steve anywhere, um, or with Ashley. Oh, and on Instagram it's mysterysteve.toons for tunes because I tune things. Yeah,
Well, I think that's the end of
have a
our
lovely
show.
time.
Thank you all for coming.